Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be going over the Washington Commanders dream draft scenario for the 2025 NFL draft, and I'll be going over a draft rumor or two, so stay tuned for that. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well. Also stay tuned to the end of the video, just have a fun stat for you guys, not necessarily about the Commanders, but just stay tuned for that. Alright, let's get right into it. So we are 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. It's almost here. It's almost here, guys. So, we're going to start to ramp up the draft coverage for you guys. We'll obviously still talk about other stuff if there's any other news, but I do want to talk about the dream draft scenario for the Washington Commanders. And I recently I've been liking the ESPN draft simulator just because, it gives you the ability to do all 7 rounds, unlike PFF, and you can do trades, you can do a bunch of different stuff. So, this was the mock draft I had. Able to get James Pierce at 29, which I think would be amazing. I don't think it's going to happen. They say 88% chance, but that he's going to be there. I don't think so. Then Travion Henderson. That is not happening, but a dream scenario. Even in a dream scenario, Travion Henderson at 61 for me seems kind of crazy. And then I got, Billy Bowman. Don't know much about him, but I like some of the, stuff I saw there from him. On his draft profile, safety, the Commanders could use another DB. Then you got APR from Virginia Tech. Don't think he's going to be there either, but you get another edge rusher in the mix there. And then Arian Smith, wide receiver out of Georgia. Don't know much about him, but that for me. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I can make a video out of this. And I was thinking, all right, Commanders dream draft scenario. One of the top edge guys falls to 29 for the Commanders. That for me is the dream. So let's go ahead. You know what? We'll go ahead and do a new one, ESPN mock draft simulator, because I do want to keep that mock draft. Just might put a tweet out about that. But let's go ahead and just look at some of the different scenarios for you guys, just so you guys can see what the Commanders are working with here. So we'll load into the draft. But yeah, James Pierce, if he's there at 29, that would be great. Mike Green, if he is there at 29, that also would be great. And then Donovan Izaraku, who I, drafted in my mock draft last week, if he is there at 29, I also would be happy. So let's go through this. So the Commanders, Pierce is there, Zaraku's there, Walter Nolan's there. Azrae Thomas is moving up the boards. Keep going down here. Travion Henderson's there. A lot of the guys are there. Emeka Egbuka is there. You look at some of the guys that got, just to see. Mikel Williams, or Mikel, he was drafted at 28. He is a guy that has been rising up the ranks. I think he's going to get drafted in the top 15, top 20. Maxwell Harrison, cornerback, or Maxwell Harrison. He has been, flying up the draft boards as well. You got Malachi Starks. Some of these guys do make sense for the Commanders. Shamar Stewart and Mike Green back to back. I am not too sold on Shamar Stewart. Doesn't have a lot of production. So for me, I would not want him over guys like Mike Green, James Pierce, and Izaraku. You got Mike Green going number 20 to the Broncos, Omarion Hampton, 19. So just some different options there just to look at. But let's go ahead. We'll go over some mock drafts and just kind of look at some different scenarios. So like right here, this would be great. You take James Pierce. There's been some rumblings of character concerns or whatever, but for me, I haven't heard a lot of that and any reports really confirming that. But yeah, so far this has been a great dream draft. And then after that, for me, I think you trade back. So trading, if someone like Travion Henderson is somehow here, you take him. If Judkins is there, you take them, but they're probably not going to be here. At least I don't think Henderson's going to be here. Maybe Judkins, I don't know. If they're there like they were in this mock draft, you absolutely take them. But I think the best thing you can do is make a trade. So let's say you go to, I wish they had some trades already made, but what's a team in the top I don't know, 10-ish that the Commanders could make a trade with. A team like I don't know, Broncos, no. Maybe you go like a team like the Bengals or the Bears or the Falcons, a team that, won whatever amount of games they won. And they have, so see, the thing is they don't have pick, in the third round. But I think trading your second round pick into the third round and getting some more picks, whether it's for next year, I would say do it for next year, because next year you don't have a second round pick or a fourth round pick. So if you can recoup one of those picks, a second round is you're not going to be able to do that. But if you can recoup that fourth round pick making a trade, then I think that would make a lot of sense. So if you trade 61, you trade 72, obviously they're saying it's a lopsided trade, but maybe they give up their, I think, see, they're saying they won't accept it, and that makes sense. Let's say we get the fifth, and I'm just trying to see what would be fair, something like that, right? Where we move up, back 11 spots. See, if they had a fourth round pick, this would be so much easier. But let's say we move back 11 spots. We get a fifth round pick next year and a fourth round pick the year after. More like a fourth round pick in 2026 and a fifth round pick in 2026. Yeah, so sorry, I cut out. But let's look at some other potential teams. You look at like the Bengals. This makes a lot more sense. So 81, would they give us the third? Already, like this, ESPN is saying that they would give it to us. So maybe you throw in 153, and then we throw in round 6 next year, round 5? Something like that, where we're able to get a third round pick for next year, and maybe throw in a fifth, and then, I don't know, something like this, where still you're missing some of your picks for next year, where you have a round 1, 2 thirds, no fourth or fifth, and then a 6th or 7th. But you're already in a better spot, and you would be getting 153. I'm assuming that's like in the 5th round, which gives you another pick this year in the middle rounds, where you don't have that fifth, and you don't have that 5th round pick this year. So for me, that's definitely something you can do, and you can still get a running back in the 3rd round that you really like when you do this trade. So let's say they do this trade, and maybe Adam Peters cooks something up and is able to turn something, I don't know, get a 4th round pick out of it too. Like, let's say, I don't know, we give up I don't know, whatever. This is fine. And then they accept the trade. We move from 61 to 81, which is a 20 picks, delay, but you're able to maybe get a running back that you like in that spot. Devin Neal's available. Devin Neal in the 3rd round is much, more doable, I would say. Taking him at 81 versus taking him at 61, and you get some draft capital back. And in this scenario, you could even trade back a little bit more, maybe see if he falls a little bit. Scatterboo too, maybe you want him, but taking someone like Devin Neal here, like I said, is much more appealing than taking Devin Neal at 61, and you get some draft capital for next year to recoup from some of those trades you made with Lattimore, Debo this year, but that was just a 5th round pick for this year, and then Larry Tunsil, which was the biggest trade, which you're giving up a 2nd round pick. You gave up a 2nd round pick and multiple picks for that. So being able to recoup some of that value for next year, getting that 3rd, I think is very important, and you still get whoever you want. So maybe not trading back in the 1st, you could, but I think trading back in the 2nd is also, a good possibility as well, just to get some, more draft capital. And then I think taking a flyer on a DB early day 3 also, wouldn't be a bad idea as well. We'll just go through with this draft. I'm not really going to, I really just want to take, look at day 3 and see some of the maybe flyers we could take on some defensive players, because, defensively is where the Commanders really need the work. Offensively, they made some moves this offseason. They added Debo, they added Laramie Tunsil. They really don't need to do a lot. But in terms of, defensively, I think they do need to need to add some more guys. And they did add, James Pierce in the 1st round. But then after that, I think some work needs to be done. So here I mean, if Air Harold Vannon would be there, that would be a great pick. He's not going to be there, but taking a safety wouldn't be a bad idea. Like I said in my tweet, safety, DB on day 3, early day 3 wouldn't be a bad idea in my opinion. And then you just keep going down the list and taking flyers on guys. Sometimes it's fine to get a special teamer, but also just getting guys that you think, even if they're boom or bust. If a 6th-round pick doesn't work out, that's fine. But if it works out and he's a starter, that's great. You didn't lose much though if he doesn't work out. And I think Adam Peters, I don't know how much he had to do with all the late round picks, but Brock Bowers, the safety, however you pronounce his last name, I can't get it off the top of my head. And George Kittle, Fred Warner wasn't a first, second round pick. I believe he was like a 3rd round pick, maybe a 5th. I can't remember exactly, but they have a lot of later round guys that they're able to develop and find that talent out. So hopefully he can do that and see some high potential guys in this draft. Kobe Bryant, I think he is a DMV guy, not completely sure there, but guys that you think have high potential would be the move in my opinion for the Commanders. Maybe you take another edge rusher. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Take multiple edge rushers, see who sticks. The room isn't super young right now, so just add a bunch of guys, see who sticks. They added Dietrich Wise, they added Jacob Martin, they added a lot of guys to the defensive line. Let's see who sticks. Let's see who they really like. So we're not going to go through all this, but I did talk about that. And then what's the other thing? So JP Finley talked about, Josiah Stewart, past day 1, if they trade back, is a guy to watch out for. Michigan guy. So played high school football from what I saw with Mike Sanders still, and obviously at Michigan in 2023. And, 12.5 sacks at, Coastal Carolina. And then 3.5 sacks the next year, 5.5 his first year in Michigan, then add a year, 8.5 this past year with 2 forced fumbles. So decent production. The size is not there. The size is not there for an edge rusher. 6'1", 245 pounds, and that's the team listing that. So I don't know exactly what it is. We can look it up here on the draft profile, but that's not very appealing. Maybe he's a little bit heavier. 6'1", 249. All right, so the weight went up a little bit, but it's still not very, that's not great. That's not great weight there. So, not weight, height for an edge rusher. So it might be more of an outside linebacker type of player for whoever drafts him, and that's what Lance Zierlein says here, 3-4 outside linebacker. But that's it for today's video. Just wanted to go over some draft scenarios, some dream draft scenarios for me. It's just that edge rusher falls at 29. You don't need to trade back. You take that guy, more of a high ceiling guy than maybe you would get when you're trading back into the 2nd round. And then I would say in that 2nd round, if there's a guy like Travion Henderson or maybe Quinshon Judkins there in the late 2nd round, or running back you really, really like, if they're there, go ahead and take them. And in my opinion, that's a dream scenario too. But if not, trade back into that 3rd round, get maybe another pick for this year, middle of the draft, like a 4th, 5th, even 6th round pick, and get some picks for the next year as well. Start recouping that draft capital that you lost in some of these trades, and then take a running back on day 2 with that, with your 1 day 2 pick. Maybe you have 2 of them, and that's what I would do. And I think that would be a great dream scenario, and you can still take one of your running backs if they feel like they can find a running back. Besides that, maybe there's a tier 1 with Genty and maybe Hampton in that, he's like the next guy, because I think he is in a tier above the other guys. And then you got the next tier of Henderson, Judkins, maybe you throw in Caleb John, I don't know, there's that tier, and then there's another tier. So just getting a running back, if they're confident in it, go ahead and trade back and get one of those guys. But thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And the stat I wanted to say is I was looking at my channel analytics, and the state that watches my videos the most, which is a little bit surprising, was actually Maryland. I thought it would be Virginia, but it's Maryland, Virginia, and then I think North Carolina, and then DC. So just something I thought was interesting that I would share with you guys. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.